Hello everyone, welcome back to Study Room. So in this video we are going to learn about the classification of forces, that is contact forces and non-contact forces. So let's move ahead and see what are the types of contact forces. So there are two types of contact forces. Firstly is muscular force and second is friction force. So we understood right now that the force is broadly classified into two categories, that is contact force and non-contact force. Then contact forces are again subdivided into two categories, that is muscular force and friction force. So let's move on now. Let's see what is muscular force. Now, as the name already suggests, this force is caused by the actions of muscles in our body. The force resulting due to the action of muscles is known as muscular force. It is the muscular force that enables us to perform all the activities. So, even if you move your hand or lift an object, for all that you require force, right? So let's move on. What is an example of muscular force? So, muscular force of animals is used to carry out many difficult tasks. Now, imagine if those animals didn't have force, then would they be able to carry out? Would the cows be able to pull the cart so easily? Only these force makes them able to do all these things easily. Now, since muscular force can be applied only when it is in contact with the object, it is called a contact force. Why is it called a contact force? As the name suggests, again, because there is a contact between force and where the force is applied. So, therefore, it is known as contact force. Now, let's move on. Friction force. Now, what is friction force? Let's see an example. When you push a box, what happens? When you push it, a force of friction is generated, which is opposite in direction to the pushing force, as shown in the figure. So, pushing force is in the right direction and the force of friction goes in the left direction. So, it is always opposite. Friction force is always opposite to the direction of motion of the box. So therefore we can say that the force of friction always acts on all the moving objects. When an object is in motion, it only acts that time. And its direction is always opposite to the direction of motion. Very important, it is opposite. Since the force of friction arises due to the contact between the two surfaces, it is an example of contact force. Definitely, there is a contact, there's a point of contact between the box and the ground. So, therefore, this is known as a contact force. Now, let's see what are non-contact forces, what are its various examples. Now, there are three types of non-contact forces. That is, firstly, magnetic force, electrostatic force, and gravitational force. Let's see what are these forces in detail. So let's have a look at this activity to observe attraction and repulsion between two magnets. So what is happening in this experiment is that you take a pair of bar magnet. Now this bar magnet will have south pole and north pole. Now what we do, we place the longer side of one of the magnets over three wooden rollers. Now we bring one end of the other magnet near the end of the magnet placed on the rollers without touching it, and we observe. Now next we bring the other end of the magnet near the same end of the magnet placed on the rollers. So now when we do this experiment, what do we observe? We observe that the magnet on the roller move in opposite direction to the other magnets when the poles are same. That is, suppose if they both are north poles, and in the direction of the other magnet when poles are different. Suppose if there was a north pole in one magnet and south pole in the other. So what can we conclude from this? We can conclude that like poles of two magnets repel each other. They push them away from each other, and unlike poles always attract each other. That is a sense of pull between them. So here we found out an example of push and pull. What is push and pull? The force. So therefore, attraction or repulsion between objects can be seen as another form of push or pull, that is force. So, what is magnetic force exactly? A magnet can exert a force on another magnet without being in contact with it. So, if two magnets are kept together, there isn't supposed to be any point of contact. Even then, a force is exerted between the two magnets. So the force exerted by a magnet is an example of non-contact force because there is no point of contact between the two magnets. Now similarly, the force exerted by a magnet on a piece of iron is also a non-contact force because again there is no point of contact. Still the iron piece gets attracted to the magnet. Now, electrostatic force. Let's perform an experiment on this. What happens here is that take a plastic straw and suspend one of the pieces from the edge of the table with a thread. Now hold the other piece of the straw in your hand and rub its free end with a sheet of paper and bring it close to the suspended piece without touching it. Next, rub the free end of the magnet piece of straw with a sheet of paper and again bring the piece of straw that was rubbed earlier with the paper near the free end of the suspended straw. So this is the experiment setup. Now what will we observe in this? We will observe that a straw rubbed with paper attracts another straw but repels it if it has only if it has also been rubbed with a sheet of paper. Therefore, we can conclude a straw is said to have acquired electrostatic charge after it has been rubbed with a sheet of paper. As soon as you rub it on a sheet of paper, it acquires a force. Such a straw is an example of charged body. Now, again, because there is no point of contact, it is known as non-contact force. It comes under the category of non-contact force. So let's see at the definition of electrostatic force. The force exerted by a charged body on another charged or uncharged body is known as electrostatic force. This force comes into play even when the body are not in contact. Therefore, it is known as non-contact force. Simple enough. Let's move on. Now, gravitational force. Everyone must have heard about gravitational force. How did Isaac Newton, he discovered gravity? He saw an apple falling down towards the ground. There was a pull from the ground, which was then discovered as gravitational force. Objects or things fall towards the earth because there is a pull in them. So therefore, there is a gravitational force always present. So in the entire universe, whether it is small or large, there is a force on every other object. So this force is known as gravitational force. This was all about contact and non-contact forces. In the next video, we'll learn more in detail about non-contact forces and about pressure and its applications. Till then, thank you and see you next time.